This is the reason, or the main reason, why I started my weight loss journey, and it's going to be really fucking difficult because I discussed with you a few times that I have therapy for PTSD, which is a big factor as to why I started this journey with my son. And during my therapy, which is a CBT, intense therapy specialized for PTSD or trauma, they do something called a memory lane / reliving. And what they've advised me to do is make a video or an audio reading out my memory lane. So this, I don't even know if I'll post this, but if I do, I will promote it and I'll push it out there for awareness and things like that. This is going to be a long video, so I'll be surprised if anyone's even made it this far. Look, emotional. This is really fucking hard. I've only ever read this once to one person, and it was really difficult. So this is going to take some editing. So some of it I will seem quite casual, but I'm going to go for it. I'm looking this way because I have my laptop open, so the email with the document on is on there. So basically, this is about me having sepsis and almost passing away, and this is going back to 2019. So if you've got any questions after I've read this out, you can put it in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. So I arrived at the hospital in the evening. It was dark outside. I remember trying to convince the doctors that I was okay when I wasn't. The doctors thought it could be meningitis. I was in and out of consciousness. I had 4 cannulas attached to me, 2 on my hand, 2 on my arm. I thought I'd be home by the morning, and then the doctors told me it would be about 2 or 3 days. I felt panicked as I cannot do that long. I have a fear of germs and sickness, and I'm surrounded by it. They took me for a brain scan. I tried to walk to the scanner, but I was weak. I did not want help. It was like preparing for a boxing match. I was tense in my chest, and my heart rate increased. I was taken to the MAU unit. I saw a friend called Dan, someone that I know, and he asked what was wrong. I don't want him seeing me like this. I looked in the mirror in the morning, and it was not me. I have bloated face and eyes. It was not good. And I'm scared. I didn't understand why I looked that way. What is this all about? I was put into a room alone, away from everybody else. The consultant checked and said I was doing better than expected. Then the ICU guy checked, and I told him I have a pain in my groin. He thought I was joking. It pissed me off, and I was annoyed. I did not feel I was being taken seriously. I feel something could have been done at that point, but it was ignored. Went on to Apley ward, and I hate being moved. I'm in a side room, which was better as there are less noises and beeps. I'm still in my home clothes. I have no robes or slippers. My infection levels are not going down. My pain is worse than ever. I have complained about the pain. They have completed an ultrasound on my groin area, and they have found an infection there. The pain was so bad when I felt it was like an egg. I thought I had cancer. I was hysterical. They are changing the antibiotics. I have an MRI. The consultants are here, and there are 2 or 3 examining me. They are discussing surgery and drawing on my belly. They are saying we'll pack this and pack that. They mentioned they will cut my groin area. What the fuck is going on? That's me done. I'm dead. I have pen all over my stomach. It doesn't happen to me. It's a stitch up. My sister is trying to calm me down. The consultants tell me if they do not do the operation, I will be dead by 1 a.m. I feel broken. I send a message to my boy's mum, and I tell him that I might not be here. I feel like my life has been taken from me, and I'm scared. If I die, they need to look after each other, and I tell them how much I love them. They are my proudest achievement in life, and my purpose to fight. I told her, do not let them forget me. I felt out of control with emotions. It's my job to be there for my kids. I cannot help them if I'm not there. I feel helpless and annoyed. Why did I not have my shit together more and be stronger? My sister was trying to find out if I was going to die. I was struggling to understand the severity. I felt others knew, but I did not. I lacked faith in people at that point. People do not care if I live or die. They have written me off. They are making plans as if I'm not here and they're not speaking to me. I felt paranoid. I was sobbing when they took me for surgery. I told my sister I love her. I went through the double doors. I said I surrendered to God and He is the only person who can help me. I felt alone, anxious. I started to have regrets about my life. I wish I'd gone for more walks with my kids. I looked back on my life and guilt kicked in. I lost who I was and I was the weakest version of myself. I was terrified that I would be sick and I asked the doctor to give me anti-sickness. He told me most people ask if they will wake up. I then asked him if I will. I asked him, will I? And I thought he was ruling me off dying at the table. He told me to think of something that makes me happy. I thought about my boys. After the first procedure, I was left open for fluids to drain. I had a button I could press, was given morphine. I did not trust a member of staff on the ward. I was wheeled back onto the ward and my sister was waiting for me. I was in good spirits and slept that night with no pain. I woke up in the morning panicked. I was put into a side room. I wasn't using morphine and the next was a blur. I felt anxious. I did not want to be around others. Every fear I had to face. I kept feeling like I was going to be sick. It felt like I was not in control. It felt like a test, and it was the only way. I believed that I had to face everything in my life to make a change and face the wrongs I had done. They wanted to wash me and I couldn't move due to open wounds in my lower half of my body. A member of staff named Lee was amazing and patient with me. I was disgusted with myself as I had little strength and no dignity. I had lost my manhood and my independence had gone. It was soul destroying. The consultant said the dressings needed to be changed daily and a nurse from an agency tried to do it. She was pulling the packing from my stomach. She had made a mistake and it was painful. I'm not sure how much more I can take. Who the fuck wrote this script? How is this happening? I cannot cope with the pain. I want to be left alone. Lee almost passed out because there was so much blood. I had an emergency surgery the next day because of her mistake. The member of staff I felt uncomfortable around showed up and asked if he wanted to look at my dressings. He was off duty and did not seem safe. I felt vulnerable and he had the upper hand on me. I did not tell anybody how I felt, but I thought he wanted something untowards. I was embarrassed and it did not sit right with me. I kept being emotional in each surgeon, and there was 5 surgeries altogether. When I knew the boys were coming, Devlin was smiling. He was 8 at the time. Riley cried due to his worries. I tried to comfort him, but it was difficult. I told him I have to be strong for them. I kept thinking that I am a mess and a fucking idiot. I did not want them to worry. I calmed them down and Lee showed Devlin around the ward and kept him busy. They gave me fight to get through. Next day, the consultant came round with the assistants and I asked what my CRP levels were. He said they were reducing. They had halved at this point. I felt relieved. I cried with relief as I will go home and the boys will not go through emotional pain. I worried about how I would do daily things after the hospital. Emma visited and stayed for 2 or 3 hours and it was a good evening. I wanted to tell everyone that was going to be okay. I remembered the pity look on their faces. I believed I was helpless. I should have been stronger. I asked myself what I was crying over. I should have been grateful. I felt like I was a little boy again, vulnerable and alone. I wanted my mum, and I never wanted her. People invested in me out of sorrow. Next night, Emma came the next day with a fan. I did not get much sleep that night as someone was snoring. The next evening, I had dinner and slept through until 5 a.m. It was quiet, and I woke up and I embraced life. I was feeling grateful that I was still alive. I had some shit cards handed to me and I was pissed off. The consultants came round and they said that they would sew me up if it looked better, and they did on one side. I did not want to come home. I had adjusted to the routine in hospital. I was terrified every time they checked on me in case it got worse. What will happen if something goes wrong? The nurse checked. The nurse asked what was wrong. She could see I was not okay. I told her that I was afraid, and in that moment I did not care about how I looked. I had no control over my emotions. She put her hands on me. I was a mess. I knew I was going home, so I put a status on Facebook. My sister called me a hero, but I am not. I felt guilt and vulnerable. For the first time in my life, I saw good people in the world. I had previously judged everyone to be bad. I had wanted my mum or dad to walk in and take control and give me reassurance. I was trying to find love and feel it. Once I left the hospital, I went straight to see my boys. I was so weak, but I wanted them to see that I was okay. I spoke to them at the door and I was breathless. I needed them to see that I had done it. I had defied the odds. I wanted them to erase the image of me weak and in a hospital bed. They needed to see me as a fighter and not a quitter. I went to stay with my sister for a few nights and I contacted my mum. She told me she had been ill and that's why she did not visit. She was happy to hear from me. My first words, I thought I was going to die. She was compassionate for a while. She was saying the right things. I got what I needed. I needed it, but I did not like it. After a few months, she was back to her usual nasty self, saying that my dad should have beaten me harder when I was a child. I had to leave my sisters as my nephew became ill, and I was worried about catching it. I went to stay with my other son's mum for a while until I could move into my new property. My son woke me up one morning, and I made us both jump. I felt like a failure because I scared him. He saw me weak and frightened. The nurses came round and replaced my dressing. I would ask them to do my observations, but eventually they refused. It was not necessary, which made my anxiety worse. I called the paramedics as I was hot, and they said I have PTSD from the experience I had. I felt like my life was taken away from me. I reflected on my life and felt bad for my son's mum. I did not treat her well. I apologised to the women I had mistreated, and all the emotions came out. It was not me. I was struggling to process it. We finally moved into a new home, but I was unable to lift anything. I felt defeated. My friends moved us in. I did visit the hospital again due to pain in my groin, and the consultant was firm and asked me what I could see. I said stitches, and she said that's why you have the pain. That's my story. So any questions, go ahead. I'm sorry it was so long.